talk now. This MMA, what we talking about? Yeah, you tuned into the pod now. Gonna be hard for you to stop now. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in.
Welcome back to another episode of Caged In. I'm your host, Chris DiCarlo. Got a very special guest making her debut on the show. It's Paige Wilcox. How are we doing today, Paige?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I know you got a big fight coming up next Saturday night at Mohegan Sun. Glad you could carve out a little bit of time to, come on here and chop it up with me for a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to be on the show. Thank you for having me. We'll see how everything goes next weekend.
Of course. Before we get into that fight, I know it's a title fight versus Ashley Barrett for, reality fighting. I want to talk about that one, of course. But since you are new to the show, the new guests like to get on, get a little bit of their background, get to know them a little bit better, and then we can start diving into the fights. So first off, where were you kind of born and raised, and what was growing up like for you?
I grew up in Green, New York. It was a super small town, pretty laid back area. My brother grew up wrestling, so I was sort of involved in that and in the wrestling room every day. So I guess that's what sort of piqued an interest in the combat sports there.
There you go. Did you play any traditional sports growing up, like through school? Were you involved in any sports like that?
Yeah, growing up, I played soccer pretty regularly. So once that was no longer at the competitive, I guess, level, that's where I was looking for another avenue from that.
There you go. And then what's the story behind, falling in love with MMA? What was it like the first time you went into the gym, and how did you decide that MMA was now the sport that you wanted to sink your time into?
It was actually pretty easy. From starting out, I really loved the gym that I started at. Everyone was super supportive, and there's just so much about mixed martial arts to learn that it can be very addicting. And there's a lot that you can invest your time into. So I guess that's what piqued my interest the most in it.
For sure. And then through your training and even your fighting career, is there a specific point in that time frame where you were like, all right, this is the real deal for me now. This is what I want to focus my time and energy on, and this is something that I want to focus on and start trying to form into a career. Is there like a turning point for you that you can kind of look back on at a specific time and see like that's when that happened?
I think it was a lot after coming back from my last kickboxing fight and actually getting started in MMA instead.
Hmm.
Kickboxing wasn't as obsessive as MMA is, and I guess it's because there's so many different avenues to work in MMA.
Right. And for those of the people that are watching that maybe haven't seen you perform before, how would you describe your fight style to them?
More aggressive. I like to move forward a lot. Primarily enjoy striking, but definitely have been increasing the wrestling and jujitsu side of my game as well, and love that just as much.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, all of us are very excited to see you fight on Saturday, January 6th versus Ashley Barrett. And you are getting ready for that one, as well. So let's talk about your training camp. I know you are over at Apex Combat Sports. For those that aren't really familiar with the gym, can you kind of give us a rundown on the vibe and what's it like over there for you guys at Apex?
Yeah, I absolutely love working there. We have a pretty solid fight team right now of 6 or 7 guys that are actively preparing for fights. Our head coach for striking is going to be Alex Simprasith along with Dylan Smith. And then for jujitsu, it's James Rodriguez. Um, for the most part, we have a pretty solid fight team, and we're working hard in the gym pretty regularly to prepare for the fights there.
Awesome. And I know, like I said, you are getting ready for January 6th. You are in the middle of training camp, maybe starting to wind things down. Did you do all of your camp at Apex, or were you kind of cross training elsewhere? What was the training camp vibe kind of like for you for this one?
It is primarily all at Apex. We're in a pretty secluded area, so there's not too many gyms right nearby to cross train at.
Right. Let's get into your fight career a little bit. I know this is going to be your first or your fifth amateur fight. You are currently 4-0, the Cage Wars Strawweight champion as well. Where have you seen the most improvement in your game since you made your debut back in 2022?
I would say it's just the in between transitions. So working a lot. At first, it was difficult going between the striking and jujitsu. So that in between game is really what has improved tremendously over the last 2 years or so.
For sure, mixing all those disciplines together, it is got to be tough to kind of, find the intricacies in between mixing all those skills together for sure.
Yeah, it's also the fun part of it. So
Of course, of course. I did mention that you were the Cage Wars strawweight champion that you got that belt at Cage Wars 62, first round victory over Erica Valentine, rear naked choke, impressive performance, of course. Going into that fight though, what was the game plan for her? And then ultimately, how did it feel to get that win and get that belt wrapped around your waist?
go in there, be cautious. We knew would want to get it to the ground, which is what she did. Walking myself through that, I stayed pretty calm when she attempted to get the guillotine, but was calm enough to be able to work through it and end it with the finish, which did feel good. I was a little worried there for a second, but definitely wanted to come out on top on that one.
There you go. And congratulations on that one, of course. Your first amateur title. You will be going for a second one on January 6th. Your first two fights, though, they were at 125, the next two fights, and this upcoming one at 115. Do you have a preference on the weight division that you fight in? And eventually, when you go pro, which weight class do you think that you'll call home?
115 for sure. We have debated even going lower, but 115 is where I feel very comfortable. 105 would be a stretch to get to, and it's not in many promotions.
Mhm.
So most likely stick at the 115 and just continue to put on muscle from there.
There you go. Let's get into the reason we're here then. Reality fighting. You're taking on Ashley Barrett for the vacant strawweight title. She is 5-1. This one's going down at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. What do you know about Ashley's game overall, and then where do you kind of see her strengths and weaknesses?
She definitely tries to keep you up against the fence and aims to go for ground game. It seems to be the common area across all of her fights. In terms of weaknesses, she is a pretty well-rounded fighter. We're both in a very similar position, so I think it'll be a really good fight, and it should be an exciting one to watch.
For sure. I know Ashley from, the New England regional scene, and your style is very exciting as well. So I'm sure you two are going to go in there and put on a show for the fans at Mohegan Sun. Overall, though, looking at this matchup, how do you feel about the matchup for you? And then overall, where do you see yourself having the advantage versus her?
Um, Overall, I think advantage will just be aggression and cardio. It's something that I've always been really confident in. Um, I think otherwise it will be pretty even. My jujitsu has gotten tremendously better. Um, yeah, my striking is pretty solid as a whole. So from that, as long as I stay calm and composed, I believe it will be something that is definitely attainable.
For sure. What can the fans at Mohegan Sun expect from you once those cage doors lock on January 6th?
Definitely want to go out there and be aggressive, make sure I do my part in the fight, stay on top, and get that belt to come home.
There you go. And with a win on January 6th, you will be a 5-0 amateur fighter with two regional belts on your shoulders. Ideally for you, do you have a time frame on when you'd like to turn pro? Is that something that you're looking forward to, maybe after this fight, or what's that time frame look like for you?
Not immediately after the fight. Within the next year, it is sort of the goal, but I don't want to rush it either. There are areas that I need to continue to improve in, and I think fighting against a few other individuals that are higher ranked would be a good start before going pro. Because there's been a lot of fights turned down from individuals with winning records, and that's really who I need to face to see where I'm at.
Exactly. They always say like your amateur career is kind of like the testing grounds and the proving grounds for you to try to go in there and figure out, yourself as a fighter and, kind of fill the holes that you need to fill. So definitely excited to see how the rest of your amateur career plays out. And then of course we'll be looking forward to that pro announcement when the time comes.
Yeah, certainly excited for that moving forward. I do appreciate that.
Of course. Before I get you out of here, anything that you want to say to the people, where can they find you on social media? Any sponsors that you want to shout out?
Just shouting out Apex Combat Sports, of course. That's really what has been the solid foundation of me getting to where I am. And then you can find me on Instagram, just Paige Wilcox MMA.
Perfect. All right, Paige, I appreciate the time. Thank you very much for joining me. Hopefully I'll be able to talk to you again soon. And, best of luck Saturday night over there at Mohegan Sun.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. We'll stay in touch.
Of course. Thank you.
Get down for the count and he can't even talk now. This MMA, what we talking about? Yeah, you tuned into the pod now. Gonna be hard for you to stop now. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in.